Hello, it's Jeannie. How are you? I'm doing well. Last night I hardly slept, and that's because we had the most wicked lightning and thunderstorm all night long. It was epic, absolutely epic. It was like somebody was playing with the switches of the lights and just toggling them on and off and on and off. And then there would be a massive, bright bolt of lightning, and then immediately, like simultaneously, the crash of thunder. And I kept thinking, that's in our backyard. That is the house was shaking. And it lasted well into the day. So anyway, as exciting as that was, and I love dramatic weather. I don't like wind because it messes up my hair. But as dramatic as that was, I was awake all night. So this morning when I got up, I was dragging. So I meant to come up here a lot earlier today, but I sat down on the sofa and fell asleep. I was so tired. But oh my gosh, the lightning and thunder. Now, everything is fine outside. I looked around, kind of a cursory look, and nothing seems like it got blown up. So I don't know what the lightning strikes actually hit. We are on a golf course, so maybe it's straight to the ground. I don't know. Anyway, my only concern out of all of that dramatic weather was the eagle's nest that is the next fairway over. It's, around the block. And there's a big, beautiful eagle's nest with two eagles in it. Bald, white, bald-headed eagles. And like I mentioned before, I didn't think they were in Texas this far south, but they are. And so I was worried about them, the wind and the rain. The rain was coming down in sheets, absolute sheets. Now, being a California girl, Bay Area, born and raised, we never had dramatic weather like that. Never. A couple of flashes of lightning and we'd be all, woohoo, woohoo. But anyway, it was amazing. And the cats were on my bed. My husband was out of town, so it was me and the cats. And they're perched on the bed watching outside and kind of freaked out. Some of those bigger claps of lightning made them run. Anyway, that was my big dramatic night, so it makes for a day where I'm dragging. Today's video is sponsored by a company I'm very happy to introduce to you once again, Nurx, N-U-R-X. Nurx is a digital healthcare platform that makes it easy to get expert healthcare. Work with a Nurx licensed medical provider to tackle skin concerns like calming acne breakouts and fading melasma and dark spots or hyperpigmentation or smoothing out fine lines and wrinkles. You share your skin history and a few photos. Nurx offers retinoid treatments, which are up to 20 times more potent than over-the-counter retinols, and it is a well-known powerhouse in skincare. Nurx's team of dermatology experts will guide you through your skincare journey, and they can adjust your medication strength to ensure that you are getting the most out of your treatments as your needs evolve. Thanks to Nurx for sponsoring this video. Take control of your healthcare. It starts here. Go to nurx.com/Jeannie B ASMR and click on the link in the description. That's nurx.com/Jeannie B ASMR. Results vary, and it is not offered in every state. Medications prescribed only if clinically appropriate, and a consultation is required. Again, thank you, Nurx. Anyway, it looks like the sun is finally out now. It is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's very humid. It's warm and humid, which my hair just goes straight and frizzy. And I will get to the point of this video in a minute, but you get to hear my blah, blah, blah first, because we are friends just sitting over the table talking, right? But anyway, with my hair a little longer, it is heavy. I have a lot of hair, and so I'm thinking about going, short again, because it gets all frizzy at the ends. And yes, I can put it up, but I don't know. The jury's out. I'm going to be going back to my hairdresser in about 3 weeks, and I may do the shorter, behind the ear kind of cut like that. But then I can't put it up. So, I don't know. I like it both ways, and I think it looks good both ways, longer and shorter, but we will see. There. All right. Today's video, and we talked about this book a couple videos ago. It is Miss Manners' Guide to Excruciatingly Correct Behavior. Now, Miss Manners, if you don't know who Miss Manners was, or is. I think she's still doing your articles. Is she? Tell me. People would write into the newspaper, "Dear Miss Manners, my brother-in-law picks up his food, his chicken, and eats it with his fingers and cleans it to the bone. Is he wrong? Whatever." The thing about Miss Manners is she is very non-confrontive to people and pointing out their flaws. Okay, she would rather keep the peace and ignore something than embarrass someone by confronting them. Now, she can be very snarky and witty in her answers, but her overall premise is you don't do something to embarrass someone. And her feeling about family dinners is you're much less formal, obviously, and picking up your food with your hands is okay in a family situation. I was reading through this book, and she even says that asparagus is to be eaten with the fingers. I didn't know that. Anyway, so I've gone through this book, and I've tabbed a few pages with some sticky notes of some things we will go over. I think today, in many situations, people are much less formal. And that's okay, as long as there are still manners, I think. This book came out in 1979, so it's, 45 years old. And so some things are a little outdated, like women wearing gloves to church, that you don't see very often. There are a lot of things that we're a little bit past in most areas, not all. So I've picked out a few to go over as reminders of things we still can do. One of her premises is also that when you have a guest, your job as a host or a hostess is to make that guest comfortable. And she cites this one time that Queen Victoria had a dinner, and it was the Shah of Persia back then. He picked up his finger bowl of water and drank it as if it was to be drunk. And so to put him at ease and make sure that he was not going to feel bad about that, she picked up hers and drank her finger bowl of water as well. And others who kind of saw that did the same. See? So yes, rules can be broken, and I think it's for the greater good to make your guest comfortable. So, where are my glasses? Oh, right in front of me. So let me do a little reading to you from some of these, and then I'm going to show you how I'm going to do my place settings for an upcoming dinner party. I actually have two. One where it's a dinner club, it's a gourmet dinner club. The hostess does the main dish and the accompanying side that goes with it. And then each couple will bring a designated recipe, side or dessert or salad or potato or soup or something like that, and bread. So it's going to be at my house, and so I am making the main dish, and maybe I'll show you that coming up. It is, when is it? Oops, missed a phone call. It is, we're going to a dinner party in the end of May, but this one is actually June 8th, so we have some time. So I'll show you some things from that. I had to turn on the air. It is hot in here, and it's not even summer yet. Okay, back to the book. So let's put my glasses on, and I'm going to read a few things to you. And so Miss Manners, Judith Martin, she really encourages being polite even when someone is being rude to you. Just because you can be assertive and pitch a fit doesn't mean you should. She is an advocate of the polite smile and maybe a look away, but not being confrontive. So that is what she stands by. And you know what? We've all seen it in this day and age, all the crazy, entitled, demanding people. So I challenge you and me. I mean, I'm not the crazy ones out there, and I'm sure you're not either. But let's bring civility back. When it's easy to be snippy, choose not to be. Does that make sense? Let's be kind. Let's bring politeness and kindness back and show that to the world. Let's be examples of that if we can. So, when Miss Manners is treated badly, she responds courteously. She considers that not stooping down to a lower level. And she believes that two wrongs make a blight. So, okay, So, making your guest or others comfortable. She writes in like third person, so Miss Manners is sensitive to this because she often hears the great and subtle art of etiquette described as being just a matter of making other people feel comfortable. Okay. It's a big book. There are a lot of topics. There are topics from place settings and dinner manners and restaurant manners, wedding and addressing invitations and how to respond and going to the office party and so on and so on. I don't want to make that long of a video, and I don't think you'll want me to. So I've picked out just a few highlights. You know what? So this is 1979, and I love this, and I just flipped open to it. The chapter is called Common Courtesy for All Ages. So, dear Miss Manners, and she takes a few of her articles from various newspapers. What am I supposed to say when I am introduced to a homosexual couple? I love her answer. Gentle reader. That's how she responded to everybody. Gentle reader. How do you do? That's her answer. How do you do? And then she goes into how to introduce different people, introducing someone to a friend, and introducing undesirable relatives. So anyway, it's basically when you are introducing someone to another person, you basically say it as like this. And so, again, remember, this is kind of oriented a little bit in a social situation if you're in a place of where there is rank, for instance, say a president and a secretary, or rank is clear. You would say to the higher one, the higher rank, Mrs. Eagle, may I present Mr. Hoppity? So to the one with higher rank, you address them, may I present so-and-so? Okay? Otherwise, it's, if it's in a social situation where everything is equal, it's the name of the person being addressed, could go on either end. So it could be, John Smith, I'd like to introduce you to Betty Grable. We don't typically use Mr. and Mrs. formally like we used to, like I did when growing up. We just really don't do that too much anymore. In the United States, in Germany, for instance, it is very formal. Herr Schmidt, and Frau Braun. So you do need to keep titles a little more formal in other countries. So, all right, that's the introduction. Now, there is a whole lot on how to eat and read and read and read this. Sorry for the glare from my glasses. In the United States, she basically, divides things into European social etiquette and American. In Europe, she says that you can cut a piece of meat, and then, so you would cut it with, let's say you're right-handed, you cut it with your right hand, you can actually eat it, from the fork on your left. So you cut, eat. In America, you cut your piece of meat, you put your knife down, take your fork in your right hand, and eat it. That is the more genteel way, according to Miss Manners. I have to admit, I don't do that. One thing I do that she says is you do not cut all your food up at once, like you're going to be feeding a baby or a bird. You cut one piece of food at a time. So you take your knife and fork, you cut it. Now, whether you change your fork into your right hand or not, up to you. That's a lot of work, sitting down and picking up. But you do one piece of food at a time. You don't chop it all up. Okay. And something else she says that they do in Europe, and I've been all over Europe and I just have not paid attention, so I don't know, is using the knife to push food or, things onto the fork to eat. She says no pushing here in America. You do not push your food. You don't use a piece of bread to push it up. You don't do that. You only use your fork. If I have a sauce or a gravy, I do use my bread. But maybe if I'm out at a formal restaurant, I won't do that. Okay. Now, we'll get into the place settings and what to do with your knife and fork when you're done, or if you're just resting between bites. Okay? I'm going to touch on a couple other topics first. Obviously, and I think we've all kind of grown up with, you don't put your elbows on the table because it puts your hands up here in a crane-like position, and that's a no-no. So you keep your wrists on the edge of the table at the most, but no elbows on the table. And it goes without saying, you don't talk with your mouth full. Now, I've noticed since I started glancing through this that my husband and I have been doing more of that lately. When it's just us here at home, I'll go, oh, yeah, what do you think? Elbow on the table, food in my hands. But when you're out at a restaurant, no elbows on the table, no talking with your mouth full, and only cutting one bite of food at a time. And here's another one. If you have a dinner roll and a butter knife, you take your roll and you take a pat of butter, a slice of butter. You do not slather that all onto your roll all at once. You put it on the side of your dinner plate, and you take a piece of bread, rip off a piece of bread, and you butter just that piece, and that's what you eat. Each time, you don't slather the butter on everything. I love a roll slathered full of butter and gravy. so good. But we don't do that out in public now. Okay. Okay. All right. Now, you do not start eating until everyone is at the table and everyone is ready to eat. So there'll either be a toast, a thank you, a prayer, grace, whatever. You do not start eating until everyone is ready. Now, I've been out at restaurants where my food came first, and I waited because I'm not going to start in. And I'm waiting and waiting and waiting, and then another plate comes and another plate comes, and I'm not touching it. Now, if it's informal and among friends, they'll say, or I will say if it's me that, I'm doing the way, oh, go ahead and eat. Go ahead and eat. Go, please start. Don't let it get cold. Okay? So, Miss Manners wouldn't agree with that. I give you permission. But be aware of it. Don't start eating when there are others who don't have their food or they're not ready to eat. Have kind of like an agreement. Okay, we're going to eat now. Cheers. Thanks to the cook. Grace. Whatever it is. Okay. Or you tell them, oh, go ahead and start. Mine'll be here in a minute. Okay? Don't tell Miss Manners on me. Okay. Oh, this one. Now, if you're in Italy, you need to let me know, but someone was asking about using a spoon to eat spaghetti, to place under the fork and twist. And I have seen some of my friends do this, and I think I remember reading many years ago, decades ago, that you don't do that. You do not use a spoon when eating spaghetti. And that's what she stands by. So, I never have. I know people who do. I will not correct them because that would be the rude thing to do. So you tell me, especially if you're Italian, she says they do not do that formally in Italy. But again, this is 1979. So anyway. Okay. What is the correct way to eat saltwater taffy? And she says, gentle reader, with your mouth closed. And that is the way to eat all food. She has this entire chapter on social intercourse, conversing rather than communicating. And I found it very interesting because basically, and I won't read it all to you, I'll give you a synopsis, is when you're out at a social event, sometimes people talk just to talk. And when they are listening, they're waiting for you to pause, not to really understand what it is you're saying, but waiting to talk, waiting to answer, waiting to interject something. That is just conversing. You aren't truly communicating. So think about it when you're out, and I'm in this category, trust me. When you're out and you're meeting with people socially, what are you talking about? And there are some no-go subjects. You really should not be talking religion, politics, polarizing topics, because there's no need to. You're not changing anyone's minds. And it's just taking a side when you don't need to. But how are you communicating? How are you connecting? She doesn't use that word, but I am here. I like to ask questions and really go a little deeper, but not too personal. I wouldn't ask a question, so how are you doing since your divorce? That's way too personal. When you say, how do you do, or how have you been, it really isn't an invitation to hear somebody's life story or all the dirty details of their life. But you can start to probe, oh, you got a new job, that's wonderful. What is it you're doing there? And how do you like that compared to what you were doing before? Probing a little bit. Now, by the same token, if you are asked a question, you can give a nice brief answer. You don't have to give your life story. And if somebody does probe a little too deeply, it is okay to say, that's a little private to be talking about. Or, I'd rather not discuss that. Just because a question is asked of you doesn't mean you have to answer it. Okay? And you can politely decline to answer that. And you're making a point. Back off. With a smile. Okay. I'm not going to go into a lot of her advice about, dating and answering the phone, how to write an invitation, decline or accept it. That's okay. But in this day of social engagements, make sure you do RSVP and send your regrets if you can't attend something. And I remember telling someone this once. She was a younger lady, and she had been declining a lot of social offers of various engagements. And I said, if you decline too many, you'll stop getting invited. So one of these times you're going to have to go to something to, let people know you do care, that you are interested in them and you are interested in having a social life among these friends. And she really took that to heart and realized how much she had been shutting people out. So anyway, for what that's worth. Now, I'm going to show you with regard to setting the table for a kind of semi-formal dinner party. And I'm going to show you with my plates and silverware and glassware. A more formal table typically will have a full tablecloth. If you want to take it down just a notch, you can have a table runner. And I hadn't really thought about that. I typically always use a runner. Now, my dinner parties aren't formal. Even though we do gourmet cooking, it's still mostly informal. But I'll show you how I set my table, and it is correct for the most part. All right. So you are going to start with a charger or a placemat or some kind of decorative something or other underneath the dinner plate. So you set that down, And then the main dinner plate will go right on top of that in the center. Now I'm filming this with one hand, so. And then on top of that goes the salad plate, right in the center. And then the soup plate, soup bowl, if you're having soup. And then the knife will go to the right, facing in, not out, and then the spoon directly next to it. And then directly on the left is the dinner fork, and before that, the salad fork. And so, if you have several forks, you basically start with the outside. It's pretty easy, work in. Sometimes there will be a fish fork or an oyster fork or a special fork. Regardless, you start from the outside and work in. You don't have to worry about which one do I pick up. Okay. And then right on top of that will go your napkin, right in the middle. And I've got a little napkin ring on mine. And then, as far as glassware, you have your water glass to the right, and then your red wine glass directly behind it, and then your white wine glass directly to the left, just like that. And that is how I set my table. Now, the napkin, when do you put it on your lap? As soon as you sit down. Not when the food comes, not when you put your order in to the waiter. As soon as you are seated, the napkin goes on your lap. Okay? One of the things I add on my table are candles, and not the real flame kind. I love, just knock that over. I love these. I don't know if you can see, they twinkle a little bit like a flame. And I've got, I don't know, maybe a dozen of them. And I have a little controller. And so I can turn them off. I'm not going to catch anything on fire. I can set a timer. And they're easy to put away. I usually have flowers, low flowers, so that you can see over them to the people across the table. And sometimes, depending on how large my table is set for, I'll have a couple of, 2 or 3 bouquets or arrangements. And I just like to have a little fun with it. And these flowers that I got from Rose Forever, these are perfect. I may get 2 more just to have on my table. That's the perfect height. I love these. So, anyway, table decor. You can make it fun. You can do fun napkin rings. You can do fun napkin folding. I haven't done that much, and it's all on the internet. You can Google that. Now, I will also add a coffee cup and saucer at the end. Bring coffee. Not everybody wants coffee. And a dessert dish. Sometimes I will make a dessert dish ahead of time and then just pull it out and serve it, rather than having a separate dish that it has to be served on later. I have it all meted out in the refrigerator or the freezer or wherever I'm keeping it, and I serve that at the end. I don't know if that's proper or not, but that's what I do. And then, like I said, with coffee, some people won't drink coffee. Some people want more wine or an after dessert, a dessert wine, a port, something like that. So I'm flexible there. Okay, so now let's say that you need to pause from eating for a moment, for whatever reason. If you're out, the way to signal to the waiter that you are not done, you are only pausing, is to take your knife and your fork and you put them in like a 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock position across your plate. Now, the tines of the fork can be up or down. That's up to you. And if you are done, you put them both in the same direction, either at the 4 or 5 o'clock position or straight up and down at the 6 o'clock position, like this. And the tines, again, can go up or down. It's up to you. Now, if you have to leave the table for a moment, what do you do with your napkin? So let's say you're taking it out of your lap. It does not go back on the table once you've been using it. It goes on your chair, on your seat. Now, I've read conflicting stories about that, but overall it's been on your chair. Okay? And again, if you're signaling to the waiter that you are done with your plate, you leave your knife and fork straight up and down like that together, paired. And if you're going to be back, you leave them like that. Okay. Well, there is a whole bunch of stuff in here. I think I would like to get an updated version, maybe a little more condensed than this. A more current version. Oh, something else I do when I have 6 or more people, and we do typically 8 or 10, I have table names, place cards. I print them up and I put them at each place setting. And here's something else, and here's why I do that, and I think it's the right thing to do, is I split up couples. So, it's very easy when we go out where I don't know people. It's easy for me to sit next to my husband, and I get that. But in a formal or even semi-formal dinner, the goal is to have meaningful conversation with somebody on your left and somebody on your right. If it's your husband, what are you going to talk about? Hey, honey, did you pay the electric bill? It's you want to be around someone new. So it's nice to break the couples up. And I've done it where it's kind of man, woman, and we have gay couples that are good friends of ours, and so I don't want to say man, woman primarily, because sometimes, but I will split the couple up. So I will pair them with different people. So I can talk to somebody on my left and talk to somebody on my right, and of course across a little bit. It's just good to get to know somebody a little bit more. So you just want to break it up and get people, out of their normal mix. So I love entertaining. I also do buffets, and where I'll put everything on the island, and people can come around and serve themselves, and that's usually when we have a large gathering. I think the most I've ever done is 20 something people, and I've had like different tables set up. Now with a buffet line, remember the proper way to go is clockwise. It doesn't mean somebody can't start over here and somebody start over here, but you're supposed to go clockwise. And have everything at the table that they may need in terms of salt and pepper or condiments, things like that. Depending on what they are, sometimes you'll have them there and they can help themselves. Anyway, I won't go into that. Buffets are very casual, but you can still make them beautiful. I often have a drink station where I put my husband in charge of serving the drinks, making sure that everybody has the wine they're drinking or the next wine that we're going to, or a soda or waters, if they're not drinking alcohol. Typically, our dinner parties start off with a welcome drink that is pre-made up, like a whiskey sour or some kind of a cocktail. And then we go into the wines with dinner. Okay? So, and very often we do follow up with a port or an after-dinner drink of some sort. And so, when I have that's typically for 8 or 10, I will do a drink station if it's for a large gathering and people can just come and help themselves. I can't make sure that everybody's got a drink, and neither can my husband with a large gathering. So, but I make sure that he's on top of keeping bottles open and, keeping the station manned, more or less. So, I typically always use cloth napkins. I just do. Unless it's smaller and family, then we'll use paper napkins. Pizza nights, we'll do paper plates. Yeah, why not? Why wouldn't you? So that's me in a nutshell, a little bit of Miss Manners in a nutshell. I'd like to hear about your etiquette traditions. As I've been watching, as I did in that video a couple ago, showed you my favorite things, that one family from Tyr, T-I-R, they're Iranian nomadic people. They sit on the ground and eat, and they use their hands, and they use, they tear off pieces of their bread and use that to eat. And I love that idea, honestly. But tell me about you and some of the things that you do that are your etiquette or your formal things. I'd like to hear your feedback and what you think of this. So, overall though, my takeaway from this video is, let's bring manners back. Let's bring gentleness back out in public. Let's bring being polite back, even when it's hard. When someone is being rude, it's easy to be rude back or come up with a dig at them or something. I know so many women named Karen that it really bothers me, the new Karen thing. Don't be a Karen. I have so many friends, lovely friends named Karen. So I don't like that. We need to come up with a different kind of name. Not someone's actual name. Just don't be rude. Try to be kind. Spread manners. Spread kindness. Spread patience. Spread grace. That's what I'm asking of you. Keep your elbows off the table. Don't talk with your mouth full. Unless you're at home. Okay, so I'm going to sign off from this manners, blah, blah, blah. And I can't wait to hear from you. I know there's a lot. This is a huge subject, but I had fun with it. I hope you enjoyed it. I wish you well. I wish you peace. I wish you joy and love and meals with friends. Bye for now. See you in the next video.